I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, the publisher of the Trends Journal. He called it correctly and said Trump's going to be president. Let's bring him on, Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente, thanks for coming on USAWatchdog.com. Well, I want you to take a bow and a victory lap here because you said, we're seeing it. Trump's going to win. And sure enough, Trump won and won pretty big.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate all that USA Watchdog does to watch over the country as it's being hijacked or tried to be hijacked by the mainstream media, who keeps losing credibility, losing audiences, and losing big money. So here's what we said, Greg, just so people know these aren't empty words. And the slogan of the Trends Journal is history before it happens. I just want to take one moment to read you just a brief headline over here. And this is from the spring edition, which is May. Trend forecast. Barring an ongoing barrage of self-inflicted wounds, despite his bluster, missteps, and misquotes, and despite the general media political consensus that he has no chance of winning, we contend Trump is an odds-on favorite. That was in May. In July, Trends Journal. This is the cover because it's very important. People power, because that's what this is really about, a lot of it. And it has to do with trends coming up in the future, and we'll talk about that. But just to tie it in, while Clinton and Trump swap leads in a season of volatile polls, we maintain our forecast that absent a wild card event or his self-imposed destruction, Trump, a proven reality show champion, will win the White House.
You can't get any more direct than that.
No, we said it, the odds-on favorite, and then we said he'd win the White House. So I'm mentioning to you the cover, People Power, because that's what this is. The media is way behind on this. They're all now saying, it's part of the populist movement sweeping across the globe. And of course, our traitor-in-chief, the con-mander Obama, who lied his way into office in 2007 and 2008, that he was going to revisit NAFTA and then shoves TPP, or tries to, down our pocketbooks and throats in our lives, and played the role as an anti-war president, as what he has, 7 wars going on now. He's over there now making his farewell trip, saying how wonderful globalization is and how terrible nationalization and ethnic identity is. So we're all supposed to be whitewashed, I guess, as he was, or as he proved to be. Neither black nor white, just a shadow of a nothing. And that's what he wants us to be. It's bigger than the populist movement. It stretches on much further. There were a lot more losers in this race than Hillary Clinton. Let's go down the list. Obama campaigned, as well as Michelle Obama, like we've never seen a president in office campaign for a new one running to replace him in my lifetime. He went to Michigan, he went to Cleveland, to Ohio, he went to Pennsylvania, he went to Florida, and he lost all of them. Not only did he lose, as what the people think about the White House and the administration, they handily lost the House, and they also lost the Senate. That's number one big loser after Hillary. Number two, Hollywood produced $1 billion flop. One after another. Katzenbach, Spielberg. Obama traveled to Hollywood over 40 times in the last 7.5 years, and particularly in the last several months at $100,000 a plate fundraisers for Clinton. So despite spending nearly, when the numbers come out, $1 billion, it was a Hollywood bust. I said the Katzenbachs, the Spielbergs, the George Clooney's, the De Niro's. And by the way, as an Italian-American, I find De Niro, who said he's going to punch out Trump, would love to see it. because I find De Niro a disgusting little boy. A guy that takes shots at Italian mobsters and denigrates our ethnicity, taking the cheap mafia shots and making hundreds of millions of dollars off them, while he would never go after any other ethnic group. De nothing, or is it De Niro? And then, of course, the rappers. We saw Beyonce and Jay-Z next to Hillary Clinton in Cleveland, one after another. Nasty, arrogant people with vile language, as Michelle Obama puts on this show about hearing Trump's words that shocked her to the core, as she brings these people to the People's House who sing disgusting, or don't sing. Call me on my cell phone. Call me on my cell phone. Yeah, take it easy, Jack. It ain't music. It's your rap. And it's a bad one and quite disgusting when you listen to the words of Jay-Z, Beyonce, and others that they brought to the White House. The other people that lost were the mainstream media. I'm mentioning all of this because this is going to be one of our top trends for 2017. And we have a conference coming up here in Colonial Kingston on December 2nd, a one-day conference where we'll be releasing the top trends. But here's one of them for you and the listeners. This is bigger than a populist movement. It's a new world order. We're not only going to see a reshaping in politics, and by the way, this is a great opportunity for a new third party as well, because the Democrats proved how worthless they are. It's going to affect music. It's going to affect entertainment. The people are disgusted with not only the political establishment, and that's the bigger story, they're disgusted with it all. I just put the pieces together. You can see the failure of the entire establishment, going back to media such as Watchdog USA. You saw the polls that came out, how 7 out of 10 people did not believe the elections were fairly presented on the mainstream media. Now let's put it back into numbers. It's not only viewership that's going down. In the last 2 weeks, there have been massive layoffs across the newspaper spectrum. And you, as a former journalist in that world, and now in the enlightened one, you know what I'm talking about very well. You saw the Wall Street Journal just shrunk itself. They're saying by 20%. It's more, because I get the paper every day and have been for years, along with the Financial Times and New York Times, the hard copy delivered. They're firing. They won't even give out the number. It's so large. Gannett News Service, massive firings. The New York Times, massive firings. You're looking at Wall Street Journal, that whole News Corp entity of newspapers. You ready for this? Their profits declined 21% in the last quarter. So let's put all the pieces together, and you can see all the new opportunities that are being presented, and Trump is the card that showed it.
The mainstream, one of the things I said, I've been saying that the layoffs are going to be stunning. And Gerald, as a broadcaster, you live for election years, 2010, 12, 14, 16. You live for presidential years, and you only hope that there's a presidential year that people are really interested, and they're laying off with this kind of interest, and they're getting creamed. Gerald, the layoffs, this is much worse than what anybody could even imagine. If they're laying off now in the biggest bonanza political spectrum election year ever, that they're laying off, that is just stunning. Why are they doubling down on the hate and on the trying to make Trump look like a buffoon? And why are they doing that?
Because they're prostitutes. They're low-life little boys and girls. We are the only magazine that I know of in the world that forecasts a Trump victory. I read it to you, and it goes on much deeper than that.
More than once.
They will not give us any credit. They won't put us on anymore because we won't toe the line. And that's why we call them prostitutes. What type of imbecile would want to see the same disgusting faces from the political hacks that they keep featuring on CNN, the Cartoon News Network, MSNBC, more of the same bullcrap, one after another, the same disgusting people selling their same stupid lines. And that's what I'm saying to you, Greg. This is much bigger than the election. I'll give you an example. Again, it's the hypocrisy when you asked me of these so-called liberals, these little disgusting people always with their quiche-eating grin and balsamic smile. They're always being polite. They're little coward nothings. I will give you the proof of the biggest group of cowards fronting for them. This is from The Nation. The Nation. That magazine that plays itself off as a progressive rag. The Nation. Mourn, this is the headline, resist and organized. Mourn, grow up. Here. They call themselves an indispensable voice in our political... this is Elizabeth Warren calling them an indispensable voice in our political dialogue. It sure reminds me of the librarian I had in high school I couldn't stand. Anyway, this is from The Nation. Today we recommit to mobilizing against hatred, bigotry, misogyny, and economic pain. That's how they begin it. Hey, progressives, today you begin mobilizing against? How about mobilizing against war? You little scum of nothings. You little low-life creatures with your arrogant attitude. When you wanted to bring back Hitler in there and you promoted her so well, because after all, you must have gotten off when she said, how did you feel Gaddafi was killed, sodomized with swords and brutalized and cut up to death? And Hillary goes, we came, we saw, he died. Oh, you little nation of nothing, little slimers. You love your Obama, don't you? Oh, you hate misogyny? But boy, do you love those drone strikes. That's killed over 4,000 innocent people, according to human rights organizations. I know The Nation. Assad has to go. And over 400,000 people killed in Syria, thanks to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and John Kerry. The Nation, that's for you, The Nation. You're not The Nation. You're a little rag of nothing, selling your crap, as all these little liberals are crying that their murderers didn't make it into the White House. And one more thing. What a low-life little coward Hillary Clinton turned out to be. Another person with a bad attitude and didn't have the courage, and you've been at this for a long time as I have, the first time in the history of modern American politics that the loser didn't have the courage to address the people that were waiting for her for tens of hours at the Javits Center, to admit that she lost and to thank them. I'll tell you what, Greg, I bet she had a nervous breakdown. I bet she was screaming, crying, and falling to pieces because they sent out that other little rat of a nothing, Podesta, to tell the people a 2-minute talk. Now listen to me, listen to me. It's been a long night, we're still counting. Go home, get some rest. We'll be back tomorrow.
Meanwhile, she was on the phone calling Trump's saying that she conceded. I mean, apparently while he was on the stage, the mainstream press, they're going to continue to destroy their business models by doing this unfair, basically propaganda. They've turned into propaganda media. I know how their houses work. I know how it works. I work there, and what they have done and what they're doing is off the charts propaganda. Are they just gonna? Is this one of your trends for 2017 that the mainstream media is also, along with all the other things you talked about, the people power? Is this one of your big trends? The mainstream media, the legacy media, is going to tank?
Yeah, it's gone. The top story. It's coming out actually in the next Trends Journal too. The CEO of the Trends Research Institute and executive editor of the Trends Journal, his name is Derek Osinenko. Derek Osinenko was the editor-in-chief of Gannett News Service.
I used to work for Gannett. They were a good company when I worked for them.
So you know what I'm talking about. The guy that was the editor-in-chief
Yes.
of Gannett, you know how high he was up there.
Yes, they were a great company. I'm going to tell you, I have to say this saddens me. I worked for 2 Gannett TV stations over a period of 13 years. I went to Good Morning America from Gannett. They did great work. They were fabulous. They hired good people. I don't know who took control of Gannett and USA Today, the newspaper, but it's outrageous. They should be ashamed of themselves and what they've done.
So we're doing a major story coming out in the next Trends Journal, which will be out next week. He's forecasting this is the end of weekly newspapers.
Oh boy!
Like a couple of days a week. So the flip side is more people to USA Watchdog and other media. We're not alternative media. They're the alternative media. They're the media that only promotes the establishment. And again, the establishment, as I said, from Hollywood to the White House to the media, the people are disgusted with it. This is bigger than a populist movement.
You think the mainstream media is gone? It's already tripped at the point of no return. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because, I've been on, as you know, a number of people, and they would ask me, I said, well, the mainstream media, I was saying up until recently, still has the clout to set the tone. They don't. Look at how many newspapers supported Hillary Clinton in editorials.
Yes, all of them.
All of them. Pages. And it didn't amount to anything. So the facts are there. And again, look at the numbers. And the bottom line is that they're falling into losers here. And with that loss...
Oh, you cut out. They're falling into what? They're falling into what? You said the bottom line here is they're falling into your audio cut out. Go ahead.
The bottom line is they're falling out of profitability and they can't sustain themselves. So that's the bottom line. You're looking at the numbers. Again, News Corp, one after another. We're talking over 20% in the last quarter down. You can't keep a business going on like that. Now, here's the bad part of it, by the way. It's going to be very hard to get any kind of reporting. And we rely on it as trend forecasters. We don't believe what everybody says, but we're looking for information. Now there's hardly any bureaus left at state houses. There's hardly any more overseas bureaus. So we're not getting any news. So it's going to be more and more incumbent upon, I guess we could start calling the alternative media also part of a gig media, where you're going to have independent reporters around the world and around the country feeding in stories where the mainstream media is no longer doing it. They're gone. They're useless, they're worthless, and they showed their ineffectiveness at this last election. And again, I held up those newspapers one after another on USA Watchdog. Back in August, I had all the headlines, one day after another, anti-Trump in the New York Times. And that was only one example.
Tell us some of your other trends. You're going to have your big thing in the early part of December. You're going to talk about the top 10 trends. One of them is this overarching the real new world order, which is populist and people power. What are some of the other big trends in 2017? And I know it's hard to get into all of them, but a couple of big trends in 2017. Can you forecast a couple of them?
China. Buy and sell China. Business of America is bombs. The business of America, of China's business. Buying up the world, record merger and acquisition activity, and they're also buying up Hollywood. What they're looking for is anything that they could sell and buy. So start becoming more and more familiar with it if you want to make money in it, because they're not going away. They contribute, by the way, about $700 billion to the world GDP in terms of putting more money into it. That's 3 times more than the United States. So China's really a big one. You're going to start hearing a lot of rhetoric one way and another, particularly with Trump, but here's the reality. Trump, they're already saying it in China. You want to put tariffs on it? Oh, you know that Boeing deal we just cut? We're going to buy them from Airbus. Oh, all those soybeans you're selling over here, we're not going to take them anymore. There's going to be a mediation on this. It's not going to die. That's really a big one. The other big one, another big one, and we're really on the cutting edge of this because we have some top people, really top people with us. This whole marijuana craze going on. You saw how many states legalized it and passed medical. Where's the money going to be? Is it going to be in medical, or is it going to be in different products in different ways? This whole thing is just beginning, and it's going to expand rapidly because here's the bottom line, going back to the bottom line. It's about tax dollars. It's not about legalization, because if they weren't concerned about it, they would decriminalize it, which means you could grow any seed that you want. Who's the government to say what you should do? But by legalization, that gives them the power over it to collect taxes. Like when I was a kid, they used to bust a guy running numbers down in Yonkers in the Bronx, you know? Can't play their numbers. They used to play the last 3 numbers of the racetrack attendance. But then the states got into it. Then you had to be in it to win it, and now it's mega billions or mega millions. So the same thing's going to be happening with marijuana, but on a whole different level, much bigger. It's going to be a lot of stock opportunities and a lot of development that we haven't seen happen in a real long time. Other things we're writing about, the booms and the busts. Are these driverless cars real? Where is there going to be failure and where there's going to be success? It's a whole new technological world. The other thing, very interesting, and people, particularly the USA Watchdog and others, where are the advertisers putting their money, and are they putting it in the right places? So, for example, stories are coming out that are hardly making the news on the inaccuracy of the metrics being provided by Facebook and others. And remember, about 2/3 of the advertising in the digital world goes to Facebook, Google, and a few others. So they're really in control. But now the data is coming out showing that it's not as effective as people think it is, and really the supportive data is very thin at all. So is a USA Watchdog and others going to profit from this by seeing the opportunities that the others don't have, and then going back to a model that used to work before that's not working now? So those are just some of the things that we're going to be talking about. And of course, as we're looking at the economy, and we're trying to put this together as well.
Yes, I wanted to ask about, we got this crazy suck down after the election night, 800 points down, then ricocheted back up. Gold was way up. Rob Kirby, who's an expert in gold, says they dumped 8,000 tons of paper contracts, the equivalent to 8,000 tons, which they didn't have. They dumped 8,000 tons on the market in paper gold. And he said that's how they got it to stop it. We didn't get the crash that I thought, and a lot of other people thought we were going to get. Are you still forecasting a crash? We still have all this debt.
You know, the Trump card, it was the wild card. Let's go back. Let's go back to the Friday before Election Day. The FBI said they were no longer going to look into Hillary Clinton's emails. Monday, the stock market opened up, and it went up. It closed up over 370 points, one of the biggest days of the year. on the belief that Hillary Clinton was going to win. And as we would do on Trends in the News each night, every weekday night, we were showing when the markets would go up, when Clinton would go up in the polls. The markets wanted Clinton, not Trump. Then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, the Dow was down, futures were down over 800 points on election eve when Trump was signaling to be the winner. And now it's reversed. It's 7 days in a row of up markets, bank stocks up. You see the whole change happening, the exact opposite of what everybody was forecasting. Now, we're starting to break apart the Trump economic program. Why are the markets going up? Well, the bank stocks are going up because they say there's going to be a deregulation of Dodd-Frank. That's going to help to some extent. Then the stimulus measures. Now, don't forget, the IMF, the World Trade Organization, and all the others are now saying we need stimulus. The bank plans aren't working anymore with negative, zero, and low interest rate policies and quantitative easing. We need fiscal stimulus. Now, as we look at what Trump has proposed, we're only talking about $1 trillion in fiscal stimulus for infrastructure, and that's over several years. That's not a lot of money. Go back to Obama in 2009, at the depths of the Great Recession, they brought in one for $831 billion. So we're not going to have that kind of boost. And then we're looking at the other data. Here's where the big problem comes in. We're seeing, according to the surveys, a 90% chance that the Fed's going to raise interest rates 25 basis points in December. Now let's look at the emerging markets. The emerging markets in many of the places are now collapsing because the stronger the dollar gets, by the way, the dollar's index now is at a 14-year high. The yuan, the Chinese currency, is now at an 8-year low against the dollar. Against the basket of other currencies, they're still up. What we're saying is when the dollar goes up, all this huge debt that was acquired with cheap dollars now has to get paid back in those currencies that are declining. So it's going to take more of those currencies to pay back your debt. We're going to see an emerging market crisis that we believe is going to shake the world because of the tens of trillions of dollars of cheap dollars that were borrowed that are now going to have to be paid back with more expensive dollars.
And what are you forecasting for gold if we've got a high dollar and an expensive dollar? You're talking about debt destruction. They're going to default on their debts. Is that what you're forecasting? That emerging markets could cause a daisy chain of defaults?
Yeah, they'll devalue their currencies and default. You're going to look what's going on already in the United States. New mortgage applications down 9%. Within 1 week, mortgage rates went up to 4.02%. Still low on average. 45-year average for mortgages is about 8.2%. But they're moving up. So now this is going to really hit the housing market. Then it goes back to the debt. All this cheap money that all these corporations borrowed with stock buybacks and on, with interest rates going up, they have to pay back more money, and they're earning less. Quarterly earnings were still lousy, and we had 4 quarters of negatives. And then you look at GDP in Europe, with it plugging along at 1.4%. You're looking at no growth really in Japan. They had a little bump up now. So we're looking at the first, second, and third world, the biggest economies. Yeah, look at the housing. Oh, China. Last week, the People's Bank of China warned of a series of bubbles. You're looking at, in the last month, Chinese housing index, the prices rose 32% in 1 month. So you have this big bubble of all this money that's now going to have to be paid back. See, this is the other side of the Trump boom in the markets that's temporary, and the dollar getting stronger. Again, look at housing. Look at the debt levels. Look at, the global situation. Look at the emerging markets. It's a recipe for a lot of problems because nothing has been solved. It's only been covered up with that monetary, heroin that they've been pumping into the system.
That's what the former Dallas Fed president said. We pumped the system full of heroin and cocaine. That's his quote, roughly. Heroin and cocaine is what he said he pumped into the system. So you're forecasting one of your big trends in 2017. Instead of we getting the crash in 16, you're saying that it's pushed off the big crash in the bond market. I guess the debt market is going to be in 2017. Is that right? Could you talk about that?
It almost happened this year with Brexit. But again, we're looking at the paper world and the real world, and they keep manipulating it. As you're seeing gold prices going down, is anybody talking about what's going on in India? Anyway, they just pulled in the high end rupees. There's panic going on over there. They're buying up gold. That's one of the biggest gold purchases in the world, in China and India. They're buying. Nobody's talking about what's going on. There's bedlam, mayhem going on right now in India as they're pulling out all the rupee of the highest, and it's still not that high. It's the highest ones that they have. It's only about $15 in US dollars, but they're saying that they want to stop the black market. There's chaos over there as we speak. And the people are buying up gold, but they're shorting the markets with naked shorts on the commodities end to drive down the prices, because that when the prices go up, it shows what a fraud the whole system is. So right now, as we're speaking, the gold buyers in India, and from our contacts there, they're buying up as much as they can because they're also concerned that Modi, the prime minister, is going to start restricting gold sales over there and making it harder for them to buy gold. And the Indians love gold.
So you're projecting in 2017 some sort of crisis, bond market crisis, and then bonds are going to get crushed and gold's going to go up. Is that what your teeter-totter is showing? But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Just so what are you forecasting for the economy and gold?
We're forecasting the economy is not going to rebound with the economic proposals that are in place now. It'll be more of the same. However, the global situation has created an environment for a financial panic. The financial panic conditions have been in place for quite a while. What Trump's victory's done is just kind of played it off for a little bit, possibly. But again, on the negative side, with the interest rates going up and the debt that has to be paid and the bonds, as you point out, what do you have, $12 trillion in negative bonds? In the 1 week since Trump got in, you lost $1.2 trillion in bonds already. And so the gold, we believe right now, is near its bottom. Maybe another $50 lower. It's still, to us, the ultimate safe haven commodity, and our forecast remains that when gold goes over $1,400 an ounce, and it got very close to it this year, it's going to skyrocket. It's going to peg toward 2,000. Again, look what's going on in India. It's not making the news. And we're talking about a country of 1.2 billion people.
Add China, there's another 1.2 or 3 billion. You got plus 2 billion people. I mean, the rounding error is with the population of the United States.
Right. We're 320 billion. They're 1.2 billion.
Yeah, 320 million, yes.
Yeah. So, billion, yeah. So anyway, we're 320 million.
Correct.
And they're, 1.2 billion. China's, 1.3 billion?
Correct.
Yeah, so, we're the 0.3 in China.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that's what's being missed. because the physical demand is exceptionally strong.
Gerald Celente, tell us about your Trends Journal one-day event that you're going to have. Just plug that again for me, and tell us when that is and what does it cost to go to it.
Well, there's not much room left. We have a one-day event here in Colonial Kingston. We hold it at the Academy, the 1774 Academy, and that's one of our buildings. And famous painters like John Vanderlyn, whose work is in the Rotunda, Capitol Rotunda, was a student there. And it's a one-day event. Of course, we'll have breakfast, lunch, and a reception afterwards here at one of our other locations, the Mohegan. It's a beautiful, beautiful place that we renovated. And we're going to go over the top trends. We'll bring in some guest speakers as well, and how to profit from them and to give people a heads up before anyone else gets them.
Okay, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal. Well, I'll put all the information on the after the interview section. For your sign up and your fine website. There's also some free information on the website. And for you YouTube people, just click back to the USA Watchdog link and go to the after the interview section. Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal. Thanks for the 2017 preview, my friend. Thank you very much.
Oh, and thank you, Greg Hunter, for all that you do in USA Watchdog, so that the people could see what's really going on and prepare for the future.
Thanks again, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal. Have a good day, my friend.
You too.